Hi, my name is Rodrigo Rodriguez.
Hey, I'm Ellie Contreras.
Hi, my name is Adas Macias.
Hi, my name is Liz Contreras.
Hola, mi nombre es Daria Urias.
Hi, my name is Justin Zavala.
And I want to be a game developer. I want to be that because I want to make people laugh and be happy.
And I want to be a pediatrician doctor. I would love to be able to help children and help their families with their problems.
And I want to go into the medical field as a neurosurgeon because the way the brain works has always fascinated me.
And I want to be a psychologist when I grow up because I like to hear the problems that other people have, and I would love to help them.
Sé que cuando sea grande quiero ser enfermera para los niños porque quiero ayudar a los más pequeños.
And when I'm older, I want to be an architect. I've always wanted to be an architect because I like the development of houses and how they end up looking.
Hi, my name is Nicole Foy. I'm a reporter at the Idaho Statesman.
My name's Sammy Edge. I'm a reporter with Idaho Education News.
And for more than a year, Sammy and I have been traveling the state to meet with Latino families and writing about the state of education for Idaho's Latino students.
Latino youth make up nearly 20% of Idaho's student population, more than 50,000 students, and they're critically important to the state's educational and economic success. So we wanted to know why Idaho has not yet succeeded in helping Latino students achieve the same academic gains as their white peers. Thanks to fellowship funding from the Education Writers Association and the American Press Institute, we've written about challenges like how Latino students are underrepresented in advanced courses and unlikely to have teachers, counselors, or administrators who look like them.
And as we spoke to students and parents from Wilder to Haley to American Falls about their experiences, we felt a common reporter regret. There's too many wonderful people and too many stories to fit into each article. And there are too many pressing issues facing the state's Latino students to write about them all, even with two people on the job. And we really wanted our readers and our state leaders making the decisions that will impact these students' futures to meet these students, to hear about their lives, their ambitions, and their struggles. But it didn't matter how well we wrote the story, we couldn't always capture the eloquence, the passion, and the determination with which these students told their own stories.
We're privileged to have connected with so many brilliant youth during our first year of reporting, and we wanted to invite you, Governor Little, to hear from them. We also wanted to open space for students to bring questions and concerns to one of the state leaders making decisions that affect your future. We have 4 students participating today, all of whom grew up attending Idaho schools in rural and urban areas. Governor Little, each student will introduce themselves. They'll tell you about their experiences and address you with their questions. This is an open dialogue and you're welcome to chat with the students. And students, you can ask the governor follow-up questions as appropriate.
But first, we're going to turn the floor over to you, Governor, so you can say hello to everyone, and then we'll get started with the questions.
Well, hello. I'm delighted to have this opportunity. I look forward to your questions. Just briefly, my overarching goal has and will continue to be to create the best chance for all Idahoans to thrive and for our children to choose to stay in Idaho. That means first, a good job or higher income. And second, my highest priority has been educational attainment for all. Education is always the gateway to a better job. So building on those fundamentals, obviously literacy has been a high priority for me, and we will continue to address literacy as we go forward. But it also includes all the other fundamentals of education, K-12, higher education, and of course, all the career technical opportunities that are out there. Third, a reason for people to stay in Idaho and thrive is we want a better quality of life. That means affordable and accessible healthcare, means protecting our environment, and it means our families feeling safe. And finally, this all requires confidence in government. That's one of the reasons I'm joined you today. I want all Idahoans to feel our system is fair and that system participation is rewarded, a fundamental of a successful democratic republic. The challenges of Idaho Latinos often align with the challenges in rural Idaho. Access to quality education and the retention and recruitment of great teachers access to affordable quality health care, and of course, in this day and age, access to broadband. I've seen some great examples firsthand, like the Jerome School District, where their dual immersion program has been something we need to duplicate in other school districts. My priorities next year will address those, and specifically job one will be how do we address the literacy gap that we always have, but has been exacerbated by the pandemic. Now let's see where your questions will lead us.
Thank you so much, Governor, for making time to listen to these students. And thank you, students, for sharing your voices with us and with the governor. So we're going to move on to our first question now.
Hello, thank you so much for being here with us today. My name is Jaylene Saucedo. I am from Nampa, Idaho, but my family is originally from Caballerías, Villa Hidalgo in Zacatecas, Mexico. My parents came to this country with nothing, but they built their business, Diamond Roofing, here in the Treasure Valley. They are the reason I care so much, not only about education, but my community. They have 4 children. I'm the oldest of these 4 children, and I am the first member of my immediate family to attend college. I am currently a junior at the College of Idaho, majoring in marketing and digital media with minors in Latin American studies and human performance. I am also president of the Association of Latino Americano Students, otherwise known as ALAS, and social media and marketing chair of Chic Boutique, a free secondhand store for our students at CFI. Today, I am representing ALAS. CFI is currently online, but our organization has kept in touch with our meetings every Tuesday, and we dedicated a couple of meetings to preparing for this discussion, and I am so grateful to be able to represent them here today. Our goal within ALAS at the College of Idaho is to increase graduation rates within the Latino community. We want to provide students with resources and opportunities to succeed in college, but they first have to succeed in the Idaho public education system. We understand that a significant amount of money, more than $99 million, went to Idaho schools for COVID relief, but we are still hearing stories from Latino families about how much they are struggling. One of our members, Karina Yanes, has siblings here in the Caldwell School District who are learning with the online program. They get 1 hour with their teachers a day, and then they are left to try and do their work on top of learning how to use these apps. One of her siblings is a kindergartner, which makes it especially difficult. My own brothers moved to the West Ada School District just as COVID hit. They opted into the online schooling program, but it is very inconsistent. Class times change, there's little one-on-one assistance, and just overall no structure. And these are just our personal experiences. We know that there are more students across the state facing these same issues. It is especially difficult for Latino students because we often have parents who, as intelligent as they are, may not be formally educated or even speak English fluently, so they can't always help their children at home. It is inevitable that students will fall behind. So how do you plan to handle the education budget moving forward to help our Latino students catch up after the pandemic, especially upperclassmen preparing to enter college?
Well, you wrapped your arms around the problem, and that problem has always existed, but the pandemic's just made it a lot worse. Remote delivery of particularly education at the early years, kindergarten through 4th, 5th grade, you really need a very qualified professional in the classroom. Technology will help and will assist. And of course, we're making incredible advancements in technology, but also technology access by what we've done for the schools and for the communities. But we got a long way to go. I am certain, and the testing data reflects this, we're going to be behind when we come out of this pandemic. And that's why I said that my number one priority, I stated it to the taxpayers group today, is going to be what do we do to address that gap? A device, better connectivity doesn't do it, whether it's going to be summer school, summer reading programs, more help in the classrooms. Education in Idaho, by law, is a responsibility of the local school district. Caldwell was one of the first districts to really put in a comprehensive pre-K program, and it's been an example to the rest of the state. I have put more and more money into, we've tripled or quadrupled the amount of money to go into early childhood learning, and we're going to have to even do more going forward. I look forward to working with the legislature, school districts, and state board to address that. But I fully understand the problem. We're going to get better at online delivery because we've been drinking from this pandemic fire hose. But I got to help those students that have been hurt by this with whatever we can do going forward to help them get caught up. But I earnestly understand the problem, and believe me, we're going to talk about it a lot in this next session of the legislature.
Thank you so much, Governor. We really appreciate that you have this issue in mind.
Thank you.
Hello, Governor.
Hello.
I'm Natalie Swaste, and I was raised in Jerome, Idaho to Mexican immigrant parents. I have lived my entire life in Jerome, where I realized the struggles the Latinx community faced. I have recently graduated from Jerome High School. During these 4 years at JHS, I noticed issues like students being perceived as academically inferior and lacking academic guidance. I felt like there was a constant lack of support for Latinx students. I'm currently a first-year student and camp scholar at the University of Idaho. I am majoring in psychology with a minor in pre-health and an emphasis in pre-med studies. I plan to attend medical school in the future with the intention to become a family doctor. My ultimate goal is to establish affordable clinics that are accessible to minorities and lower-income families. Growing up as a Latina in the education system in this country has been one of the most difficult things to do. I was not born with privileged parents who could guide me. Throughout my 12 years in school, I felt like Latino students didn't matter to school district officials. With a population of over 50% Latinx students in the Jerome School District, district leaders fail to mirror the demographics of the community. This is clearly seen in the state data, which shows that last year, none of the school district administrators identified as Latinx. Once only 6% of the teachers are Latinx. I never received the same academic guidance or acknowledgement as my non-Latinx peers. In 8th grade, I had an English teacher who taught literature to English language learner students. Jerome has one of the best speech programs in the state. In order to recruit students, members of the team would present to incoming freshmen. I remember very clearly my English teacher saying to the team members not to come into her classroom to present because she didn't think we were capable of being a part of the team. I joined the team anyway, and 3 years later, at the state tournament, I won second place in my division and won the 19th state title with my team. Throughout high school, I've always had to fight to receive the same guidance as my non-Latinx peers were receiving. When I was young, I tested out of my original math class that I was put in. Although I was never switched out of the class, nor was this acknowledged by my following math teachers. This continues to affect my education tremendously as I fall a year behind in math. There has always been an outreach for different sorts of helps towards Latinx students, but somehow there's never enough resources. During my high school career, I was involved in Latinos en Acción. This program focuses on bridging the graduation gap of Latinx students. Data has shown that because of this program, the graduation rate of Latinx students in Jerome has increased, as well as the number of students who further their education. As the Latinx population has grown in Jerome, there has been an overwhelming demand for more spots to open. Administration and board members only authorized 2 sections, a total of 56 students. The past few years, we have received over 100 applications, and we have no other choice than rejecting more than half of these students. As a result, Latinx students enter college without the academic resources their non-Latinx peers receive. Compared to many non-Latinx students, we have to continuously jump through hoops to achieve our educational goals. My experience showed me there is an educational division between Latinx students, white students, and school administrations. How can you help break down this division? Can you encourage more representation of Latinx community in the Latinx community through district administration, or help ensure Latino students have access to the same educational opportunities as other students?
Well, thank you, Natalie. And despite all your challenges, you appear to be doing quite well right now, but I understand the hurdles you've had to get over. As I stated early on, when I was in Jerome at the grade school and saw the dual immersion program, there were other educators from around the state looking at that. You know, and I know that administration, that schools are local in nature, and the school board hires the superintendent, and the superintendent hires the principals and the teachers. That's the way that works. But that doesn't do us any good if I don't have enough Latino and Hispanic teachers that want to go teach. So we've got to work at this from both ends. I've got to help the students, first starting at the lower level, all the way up through them with resources. And we've got to create opportunities for Latinos to be in the classroom, not only in the classroom, and most administrators start in the classroom and then they work up into administration. But a lot of that is determined by the school board and who they hire for a superintendent. So that's why I talked about confidence in government. The people need to have confidence that whether they be in the governor's seat or whether they be on the school board, that they represent, that there's an open opportunity for people to participate, to select school board members, who select the superintendent, and all those other things. We've got a long way to go. You know, we put in programs like dual credit that are available. We're trying to put more money into scholarships that are available. I can't get it all done at once, but the one thing I have to do is I have to get all kids reading proficiently. And when I say that, I mean all kids reading proficiently by the end of the third grade. And that goes back to that achievement gap that we were talking about earlier. But we'll continue to work on it. If there's barriers that I can kick down, I am more than willing to work on those barriers. But I know they exist there, but you've obviously jumped over a lot of those barriers. Congratulations.
Thank you. Governor, you mentioned that you've incorporated dual credit immersion classes throughout the schools, and I certainly have been involved in them, but as a Latina, and I recall that many of my Latinx peers have to continuously jump through these hoops, and we have seen that there is an education division, and I want to know how you can resolve this educational division between us Latinx people and our non-Latinx peers.
Well, I know of and there might be some conscious or unconscious decisions taking place, but dual credit, the state pays for all dual credit for all students. And whatever that barrier is, if it's in a local school district, that needs to be rectified. And it should be rectified by the community, the board, and the administration. But I know of no barriers for students to be able to qualify for dual credit classes in our system here, unless they're local.
So when we have a local problem with our education system, do we go directly, and it's not being resolved, who do we step up next to?
The way it works, and that's by law, is you elect the school board and they select the superintendent, and then they hire the rest of the staff. There are areas where that is not a problem, but I would, and I don't know what the makeup of the school board is in the Jerome district, but representation on the Jerome district and just community getting involved in those school board elections. Because if you have good boards, they hire good superintendents, they have the support of the community, a lot of great things happen.
Thank you, Governor.
Thank you, Natalie.
My name is Janet Rodriguez. I am a junior at Minico Senior High School. I am in Rupert. I am 18 years old. I'm involved with Latinos in Action as a Vice President of Professionalism. Latinos in Action is a program to bridge the opportunity gap for Latino students working within the educational system to create a positive change. I was born and raised in Rupert, Idaho. Both of my parents are immigrants from Mexico. I have 3 siblings, and I am the oldest of child in my family, and I'll be the first generation to go to college, and I'm proud to be a Latina. The issue is about the mental health of the students that are suffering to this day. Every student has a different background on how they gotten the kind of stress or anxiety they might have. I'm one that is suffering from depression and anxiety that's been diagnosed by a doctor. My uncle that has sexually abused me from a very young age that has affected my mindset. I've been struggling a lot for the past few years which made my depression and anxiety worse than before, resulting in being quiet on certain issues, as in asking for help from a teacher or a peer, thinking that I can do everything on my own. With depression, I just started to feel unmotivated. I felt like I was really low on energy, very exhausted. I would stay in my room all day, not caring for myself and ignoring many of my problems. I would try to tell myself that I need to do this. I need to get good grades. You need to do this, or you won't go to college, or you'll disappoint your family. Being the first child in my family and going to college adds more to the stress. Having the expectations from my parents, trying to be an idol for my siblings, showing them that they can graduate as well as if they put the effort into it. With COVID, doing online school makes it even worse, as in not having good communications with teachers or understanding the problem that's been given. I couldn't ask my parents since they both didn't graduate high school, so I couldn't get the help I needed, which increases my anxiety and stress a lot more than it has before over my grades. But I tried to stay calm and think logically that I needed to ask for help and try to focus on what's at hand to get it done. It's best to get something rather than to receive nothing. The question is what could you do to help the students that have been putting pressure on themselves on school work? Is there a possible chance to reduce stress and having after school programs to do some extra time to do some schoolwork, along with possible chance to have a program to be able to have someone that's trustworthy enough for the students to talk about their situations that may be going through their day?
Well, thank you, Janet. And again, with those incredible challenges, and I'm sorry for them, you should be proud of where you are today. Last year in the legislature, one of my biggest priorities was more money into behavioral health. I was shocked, and I should have known this in my earlier career, how few schools had counselors, particularly at the grade school level. We've got career counselors, which are really important because they help students decide about a career technical or higher education, but we also need those other counselors. And we were just starting to make those investments in behavioral health. We got slapped alongside the head with the pandemic, which has been a problem. I was hoping to spend more time this year working on the behavioral health issues that exist in the different schools and how we can help, because they're different in different communities, in different schools. One of the things that we're doing on a holistic basis in the state is we brought the executive branch, the judicial branch together to address behavioral health holistically. How does it tie to substance abuse? How do we do behavioral health diagnosis early, particularly for students, so we can not have problems later on in life? For the first time, we put some money into the budget that was available for the school districts for behavioral health, but the pandemic has really set everything back. As I talked about the literacy gap that we're going to have this year because of the pandemic, we're also going to have some of those behavioral health problems. And I'll look forward to working with the state, with all the education leaders on what we can do in that area, because we're going to have to address some of these behavioral health problems that always existed, but they're a lot worse now because of the pandemic. And you point out a big problem, but I have pretty good confidence that the Behavioral Health Council, and of course, the reason it's got the judicial branch is because if everything fails, they end up in the judicial system. Our goal is to not have them in the judicial system. Our goal is to address them where we should, and that's in the classroom and at an early age to resolve some of these problems. So I made a pretty big commitment for it last year, but like I said, the pandemic has wreaked havoc on a lot of my priorities I had last year. Thank you.
Thank you for answering my question.
So Governor Little, up next, we have a two-part question for you. And as you know, we were hoping to have a middle schooler from the Jerome School District on with us. We had some timing issues today, so I'm going to stand in for him a little bit. His name is Raul Mora, and he goes to Jerome Middle School. He's 13 years old. He was born in Jerome and has 3 siblings, and he's on the football team. He's part of Latinos in Action, which you've heard the other students talk a little bit about. It's a class that empowers Latino students to succeed. And one of his favorite parts is that they tutor elementary school students. He got sick this year and he had to stay home from school, and he had a hard time keeping his grades up when he was home. So right now he's back at school and he's working on getting his grades up so that he can tutor those elementary school students again. His question is about students learning about Latin communities in school. He started to learn about Latin communities when he joined Latinos in Action, and he thinks it's important for other students to learn about Latinos because they don't always understand the Latino community, who Latino students are, and how much they help their communities. He feels like on TV, Latinos always look bad, and he thinks that learning about Latino communities would help other students understand Latino students better. So his question for you is what are your thoughts on all students taking Latin education and learning more of that in their curriculum?
Well, Sammy and Raul, the question of curriculum, we have standards that we have for all the schools, and then the curriculum at the local level is determined by the school board. The common denominator in a lot of these questions is the local school board and what they deem as important. There's no shortage of people that come to this building during the legislative session that want to put more and more and more things into the curriculum, and a lot of them are of noble consequence. But we still have to teach the fundamentals, and of course, to me, the first one, most important one, is literacy. But a lot of the rest of it can be embedded into the rest of the curriculum. Latino history can be put into the history curriculum. There's some fundamentals that need to be in there. But we are still wrestling on a statewide basis with what we do as far as curriculum. But I would urge anybody that's interested in this to talk to their local school board, and particularly if they can share among districts. But there's no shortage, as I said, of people coming here and wanting to put their one thing into school curriculum. We've only got so many days of class, and particularly this year, where we're really far behind because of part in class, part at home, all the other challenges of the pandemic. It's going to be a little difficult, but that really can be addressed at the local level. But we can make it available statewide, and then those districts can pick it up as they should.
Thank you, Governor. That was a good segue actually into the second part of the question, which is going to come from Caitlin. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, Governor Little. I'm Caitlin Quintero, and I grew up in Caldwell, Idaho. I go to Boise State University, and I'm majoring in business administration, but I'm studying to be an immigration lawyer. My parents were both educated in Mexico, but it isn't worth much here in the United States. Because I have the privilege to learn English and be here in the United States, I can do what they always aspire to do: get a college education and help people around me. With my involvement in the Student Equity Center, community work, activism, and student organizations, I work for the betterment of the community. I work with organizations like HAKU and MEPA, and these are ones that deal with the advancement of education. I'm especially passionate about the advancement of our Latinx community and other underrepresented communities. Speaking of opportunities and local proceedings, as you have mentioned previously, this project is to help with the achievement gap. As MEPA, we are in the process of creating a supplemental curriculum that would include Latinx history to integrate in local school districts. This supplemental curriculum was created by reviewing the Idaho content standards and finding ways that Latinx history could be incorporated without adding additional work to teachers or cost to the district. There are resources available like Teaching Tolerance that provide free lesson plans and resources that would not only meet the Idaho content standards, but integrate Latinx history as well. Our motivation behind creating the curriculum was to increase graduation rates among Latinx students because it has the potential of inspiring students by teaching them their history, which is just as important to learn about. Learning Latinx history and culture comes with a sense of proudness. According to Eastern Washington University research, it showed that there was a significant increase in the rate of Latinx students going into college with the new Latinx curriculums. What students learn in school translate to how they feel about themselves within the school system. The lack of self-belonging in a society that views minorities negatively really affects the perceptions and confidence students have within the education system. Although we have focused this initiative on local school districts, we would love to see this statewide to see how it impacts the Latinx graduation rates. With Latinx graduation rates falling as the Latinx population grows, I think we should be considering several interventions. Although we realize that implementing curriculum happens at the local level, as governor, where do you see your role in achieving this?
Well, Caitlin, you encompassed a lot of your question, the answer to your question in your statement and in your question, embedding it into the content standards and making it available as a plug-in, either mandatory or a plug-in. But what I would say is every educator, every administrator, every school district should be viewed. Success should be graduation and attainment, educational attainment while they're there. Engagement is the secret to that. If you have a student that's going to be better engaged because they're learning Latino history and they're more engaged in it, they're going to have a higher success. They're going to be better students. They're going to have a higher graduation rate. We always talk about how important graduation rate, how important it is for students to qualify for financial aid going on to school. So it really, there should be an incentive for districts to do that, because what it does is creates engagement. It inspires students to be better students. And we've got to get that message out that to make that progress, that educational progress, we need to get kids engaged, and having them learn and having access to that is going to engage those students better. They're going to work harder at school and they're going to have higher attainment. So I think it's kind of chemistry that works together that I look forward to working with you on, because it's all about engagement. The best educators I know, when a teacher's given an award for Teacher of the Year or Teacher of the, it's always about how they engage their students. And to engage their students, you got to teach them something that's important to them, and you hit on it right there.
Thank you, Governor.
Well, thank you so much, Governor Little and students. This has been a fascinating discussion. I'm really enjoying it, and it looks like we've got a little bit more time. So we're going to turn to some questions that were submitted from students who didn't have a chance to participate in the call live today. The first one is from a graduate of Wood River High School in Haley, who is now attending the University of Southern California.
Hello, my name is Diego Rosales. I live in Haley and have previously attended Wood River High School. The question I have for you is, how do you plan on effectively closing the education gap between white and Hispanic students? Additionally, How do you think Idaho having the second lowest per pupil spending on education may affect those plans?
Well, thank you, Diego. The one thing we know about attainment is, and that's why I said one of my goals is to increase the educational attainment of all Idahoans and also the income levels. If you're a parent and you're having to work 2 or 3 or 4 jobs, your ability to dedicate time to help your children is diminished. So anything I can do to raise the personal income level, and Idaho today leads the nation, and we started at a very low level. I'm not denying that for one moment, but increasing income levels, increasing prosperity means that there's going to be more opportunity there. I think the fundamental building block of education is literacy. And that's why I've spent so much time. We've quintupled the amount of money going into early childhood. You're lucky, Diego, that you're in the Wood River District, which is probably one of the richest districts in the state. But I have an obligation to balance that out, whether it be Caldwell or Jerome, compared to the Wood River District. And we do that in several ways around here. It's never perfect, but we constantly try and do it through the funding formula to put more money into early childhood, into pre-K, into kindergarten, into other programs that fit on to the literacy rate. There's no question about it, our funding for education, but under my short term here, we've been trying to make up that gap. I can't do it overnight, but I intend to work with the legislature this session on it going forward.
Thank you, Governor. We appreciate your answer to that. Our next question was submitted from another student at Minico High School.
Hi, I am Unda Ramirez and I am the Vice President of Latinos in Action at Minico High School in Rupert. My question for you is, thousands of students attend to school in rural districts. How can they do distance learning if they don't have the internet access at home and hotspots or Wi-Fi? It's not available. Is the state ready to afford the internet to those areas?
That's a great question. I think the last time I checked, new money into technology for schools and for students, I think we're either second or third on a per capita basis in Idaho. We are going to continue that. The internet, access to broadband and the internet is getting to be the determination of attainment, whether it's a student or for any community. So we've got 3 or 4 different initiatives going right now. Rural Idaho has been, we've got $100 million going into expanding it, and I can't remember whether we had programs specifically for Rupert. We sent money out to the school districts to put in hotspots. About $40 million went directly to the school districts. But aside from that, we put money into those communities to make more broadband available. It was a priority for me before the pandemic, and now the fact that we've had to go to so many more online, it's a higher priority. We will know where our weak links are in these communities better here in in 3 or 4 months. And then I look forward to working with the legislature to put some more resources into it, because it's patently unfair that some students have no access to the internet when we're making those kids learn online from their home communities.
Thank you, Governor.
Thank you. So I am going to read you a question that was submitted from a student again, we're going back to the Wood River Valley. She's in Sun Valley. Her name is Monica. And she says, as a DACA recipient in Idaho, I find it hard to find areas to reach out to, especially during this time of uncertainty with COVID. And I know there are other DACA students with similar situations. How can you ensure to help this minority group when many schools, funds, and organizations may disregard our concerns and questions because of our legal status?
Well, I can't give her a definitive answer. This pandemic has been very unfair to everyone, almost everyone. There's going to be more opportunities going forward. I think certainty as we get our arms around this pandemic, we'll be able to have more opportunities. But I would just urge them to keep trying. The Wood River Valley, for obvious reasons, has better financial resources, their schools do, than some of the other areas. But you don't have to go very far. You go to you can go to Cary, and you can go to some of the other areas that aren't very far from Sun Valley and Fine areas where they really are challenged and do need more help. Particularly if you get down into Lincoln County, into Richfield, and then of course you go into to Gooding and Jerome County, and there's lots of opportunities there. But you just got to reach out to those areas and try and engage with them.
Thank you, Governor. So I have another question from Minico High School. There's a very curious bunch out there, very civically engaged. This question is from a student who wants to know about access to English language learner teachers. She writes to us that her school has many math teachers, but only one who's dedicated to teaching ELL students. And she wants to know why not hire more teachers dedicated to helping ELL students, especially as we have seen the number of ELL students growing over the past few years.
I agree, we should do it. That's another one of the initiatives I did last year was try and change the career ladder so that we could both retain and recruit more and better educators, because ELL instructors, particularly in the math area, when I talk to superintendents about what's their problem, it's special education, math and science. Those are the areas where they really have some challenges. And if I put more money into what we pay teachers, there's going to be more opportunities out there. This is kind of a good thing and a bad thing. I can tell you that Idaho, compared to the other states, one of the problems we had in Idaho, and we've always had, is the fact that most of the surrounding states pay more. That delta is going to tighten up because of the condition that Idaho budgets in compared to some of the budgets around us. And I'm not regaling in the budget woes of my surrounding states, but if you're over in the far eastern part of the state, we were losing a lot of educators to Wyoming, and unfortunately, the Wyoming economy has just been hammered, and our ability to compete for those professionals is going to get better. But I've also got to grow them organically. I got to get the best students wanting to go into the education field, to go and get their education degree, and then to go on to serve in their home communities and address these really critical needs.
Thank you, Governor. So we have just, I think, one last question for you before we wrap up. So this is posted online from one of the places we're streaming this. It's from Paige in Boise. And she asks, are students as well and parents being educated about all education pathways, training opportunities, and support programs in place? Is this information accessible to the Latinx community? And if not, how can it be made accessible?
Well, I would go to the Commission on Hispanic Affairs. Every time I meet with them, the one thing we talk about is educational opportunities, and I'm sure the Idaho Commission on Hispanic Affairs is a source to go. I haven't been there, but they tell me it is.
Thank you.
Governor, we have another viewer submitted question. This is from Elisa, and she says, if the superintendent and school board of a school district are not addressing implicit bias, who can students appeal to?
Well, if it's discrimination, the Idaho Human Rights Commission. If it's discrimination based on race, ultimately that's where you want to go. But I would urge everybody to try and work through their local administration and school board before they get there. But there is a place to go if it's a violation of one's human rights.
Thank you, Governor. And thank you so much for taking time today to speak with some of Idaho's students. We're really grateful to you and to all of the students who took time out of their busy end of term schedules to participate in many calls with reporters leading up to this to make sure they were ready. Governor, would you like to add any closing remarks?
Well, yes, I'd like to thank all the students who participated. The last of my comments were on confidence in government. And you can't have confidence in government if you can't talk to them and you don't think they're listening. Whether it's the governor, whether it be your local school board, or whether it be everybody in between. So political activism will get things done. Maybe not as fast as most of us would like, but I would just urge all of the students, and the students you've had on here are a great example to all the students, regardless of their background or race, that being informed, working hard in school, those are all life lessons that will serve every one of these students well, and they'll also serve the citizens of the state of Idaho.
Thank you again, Governor, and thank you all to everyone watching and participating in the call. Just a shout out to Latino students around the state. We are still collecting student stories and questions for state leaders about education. If you see this video or hear about our work and want to submit your question or story, we would love to hear from you. We're going to put up a link on this next screen where you can send in your videos. But again, thank you to everyone for a wonderful discussion. That's all for tonight, and we hope you all are having a happy, safe, and healthy holiday season.